Ferrari's crazy new update for Lewis Hamilton just revealed. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. If there is one thing Formula One has taught us time and again, it's that redemption rarely arrives with fanfare. It doesn't make reservations, doesn't send warning signs, doesn't wear the crown before it earns the right to rise. It sneaks in through the cracks in the chaos, through the whispers of engineers and motorhomes at midnight, through the sleepless hours spent in simulators chasing tenths that don't yet exist. And now, right on the edge of despair, with media pressure suffocating, with fans divided and doubters circling like vultures, Lewis Hamilton might be standing at the foot of the climb back up, not just into contention, not just into relevance, but into history. This isn't about another race weekend. It isn't about just another technical upgrade. This is about the direction of a legacy. A pivot point in a story that has, for the last several months, begun to feel uncomfortably hollow. Because what was supposed to be the grand finale, the romantic storybook final act of a storied career, has looked more like a painful exercise in stagnation. Hamilton's move to Ferrari was never just about sport. It was symbolic. A cultural moment. The greatest of a generation donning the most iconic colors in motorsport, a union that screamed destiny. But the results have been suffocating. 7th, 9th, 10th. DNFs and Q2 exits. An ocean of performance data that says Ferrari is fighting the wrong battle, and dragging its newest hero down with it. The arrival of the Emola upgrade, a massive overhaul being described by senior engineers not as an update but as a rebirth, is the culmination of desperation transformed into purpose. Ferrari's technical department, led by minds who have remained eerily quiet in the public eye, have reportedly been working in stealth for months on what insiders are calling a deep structure redesign. It's not just wings and floors. This is a change in how they conceptualize load balance. A reinvention of how the SF25 interacts with corner entry and mid-phase rotation. The weight distribution is being altered. The aero maps are being reprogrammed. Even the power unit software is undergoing modifications to optimize energy delivery in tighter, slower sections, an area where Hamilton has been losing crucial lap time to both McLaren's and even Alpine. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. But beyond the spreadsheets, the CFD renderings, the wind tunnel hours, and the dynometrics, there's a more human layer to all of this, one that rarely gets spoken about when discussing development packages. This is about belief. About giving a driver who has poured his soul into a project a sign that the team hasn't just been listening to his feedback, but understanding it. For months, Hamilton has spoken softly in media, but his body language has screamed louder than words. The way he slumped in the cockpit after Melbourne. The silence after a gutting Q1 elimination in Suzuka. The tone of his voice when he told his engineer in Jeddah, "This is not what we talked about." These weren't tantrums. They were alarms. And those alarms have apparently been heard. According to Maranello insiders, the new direction began forming after Shanghai, despite the team's public confidence in their developmental roadmap. That sprint victory in China, as beautiful as it was, masked the pain behind the scenes. The car still wasn't compliant enough under braking. The rear instability was masking Hamilton's ability to commit through high-speed sweepers. And most damningly, the SF25 still didn't respond consistently to setup changes, which left Hamilton caught in a cycle of experimentation that led nowhere. What's different now? The answer lies not only in hardware, but in hierarchy. For the first time since his arrival, Hamilton has reportedly been given a full technical leadership role in shaping the car's direction, not just through feedback, but through direct collaboration. In the last 4 weeks alone, he's logged more simulator hours than any other Ferrari driver. He's been on back-to-back calls with power unit engineers, even involving Mercedes aero specialists now working independently, offering insights into energy recovery strategies. One engineer who's been with Ferrari since the Vettel years called Hamilton's technical involvement shockingly intense. Not demanding. Not detached. Immersive. As if he's no longer trying to adapt to the car, he's trying to rebuild it. Subscribe just to stay tuned for the Formula One news no one else explains to you. And then there's the psychological layer. The one fans feel even if they don't always talk about it. Watching Hamilton walk through the paddock in red, it still doesn't quite feel real, and maybe that's part of the problem. The pressure has been enormous, almost otherworldly. He didn't just join Ferrari. He became the embodiment of all its failures and all its hope. Every tenth lost, every point missed, becomes a referendum on his decision to leave Mercedes. But now, with a reworked chassis beneath him, a powertrain more tailored to his style, and a setup philosophy influenced directly by his preferences, the excuses will vanish, and the opportunity finally will arrive. The buzz inside the team is growing. Quietly, cautiously, but unmistakably. Mechanics are holding longer meetings. Engineers are tweaking numbers late into the night. The usual chaos in the Ferrari garage is being replaced by a new kind of silence. Focused, intense, purposeful. People know what this means. If the upgrade works, everything changes. If the SF25 finally becomes an extension of Hamilton's driving style, not a cage but a weapon, then the fight is back on. Not for podiums. For pride. For proof. For legacy. And what of Charles Leclerc? The golden boy, the prodigy turned veteran, the man who knows Ferrari's soul better than anyone on the grid? His performances have been consistently stronger than Hamilton's, but he too has struggled with the SF25's quirks. If the new upgrade suits Hamilton better, does it fracture the balance between them? Does it force the team to pick a side in a war they hoped would never come? Or does it ignite something greater? Two drivers finally given the tools to fight, side by side, for the one thing that continues to elude this team in the modern era? Nobody knows. That's the truth hiding beneath all the headlines and hopes. Nobody knows what's coming. But what's clear is that Formula One is holding its breath. Because Hamilton at Ferrari was never just a move. It was a bet, on magic, on memory, on myth. And now, with the upgrade car finally rolling out in front of expectant eyes, the story enters its most delicate and dangerous chapter. There are no guarantees. But there is belief. And sometimes, belief is all it takes to change everything. The decision wasn't just about strategy. It was about control. Ferrari didn't delay the upgrade package to play it safe. They delayed it to make sure nothing was left to chance. In a sport where timing is everything, they didn't want Miami. They didn't want chaos. They didn't want the carnival of noise and flashbulbs and branding exercises drowning out the purpose of the work. They didn't want their most advanced aerodynamic package of the last 3 seasons thrown into the lion's den of a sprint weekend, with just 1 hour of practice, limited setup flexibility, and the entire paddock watching for instant results without context. They wanted Emola, a track carved into the hills of Emilia-Romagna, a circuit that breathes history and punishes error, a place where the rhythm of the car can be read corner by corner, where teams bring updates not for headlines but for answers, where the crowd understands nuance. Emola offers more than space, it offers clarity. 3 full practice sessions. A traditional qualifying structure. Real data in real conditions. The kind of environment where a complex, high-stakes aerodynamic evolution can be nurtured and judged without distortion. Ferrari's new package isn't just a tweak. It's a reinvention. The floor is brand new, wider at the rear channel to better manage boundary layer separation, with undercut strakes designed to manipulate the vortex sheet earlier in the corner entry phase. The new beam wing setup adjusts DRS efficiency ratios by more than 7%, allowing for faster deployment without destabilizing the yaw balance, something Hamilton specifically requested after repeated issues in mid-speed corner exits. The rear wing is more than just reshaped, it's reborn. Crafted from a reprofiled carbon lattice with a reduced camber drop-off, the new design reduces drag without sacrificing vertical load. That means Hamilton can commit earlier on throttle, trust the rear through the longer radii, and use the mechanical grip the car already has more effectively. He's lost tenths not because of his inputs, but because the car wouldn't stay under him when he pushed. Now it might. The diffuser? Reconfigured entirely. The expansion ratio has been increased, with a new tapering exit designed to stabilize airflow as the car undergoes rapid load transitions, particularly in hard braking zones and lateral weight transfers. This improves rear-end confidence, especially in places like Variante Alta and Rivazza. It's not just about exit grip. It's about predictability, consistency, control. Then there are the barge boards, now sporting a new layered cascade design that takes inspiration from Red Bull's 2023 airflow model. Ferrari's engineers analyzed terabytes of simulation data, then let Hamilton himself pick what he wanted to feel in the car. Not in abstract terms, but in language that only a driver at his level can articulate. He didn't say more downforce. He said, "I need the car to breathe with me through compression." The engineers listened. Inside the Maranello simulator compound, He's been clocking more hours than ever before. And not the kind of hours you log just for media quotes. These were real, obsessive, relentless sessions. He stayed through the night twice last week, emerging groggy and unshaven, still in his team gear, going over overlays with the CFD team. He asked to cross-check correlation data between wind tunnel iterations and on-track GPS traces. No other driver in the sport is doing this level of post-processing themselves. He's not just guiding development. He's embedded in it. A senior aerodynamicist shared an anecdote that's already spreading among insiders. During a night session, Hamilton watched a 4K replay of his Barcelona FP2 run and paused the footage frame by frame, pointing out where the car's rear squatted inconsistently under throttle. He didn't look at the trace. He saw it. Felt it. Then asked for a revised longitudinal rake simulation to match what he'd just described. They ran it. He was right, within 0.5% of predicted stall angle shift. They ran the new sim. Lap time gain, 0.186 seconds per lap. Lewis Hamilton doesn't just react to the car. He reads it. Not like a machine. Like a musician reads a score. Every note. Every pause. Every unintended resonance. And that's why Ferrari waited. That's why they built this car around him. Because for the first time since he walked through the doors of Maranello, the team wasn't giving him a seat, they were giving him a canvas. Not a machine to tolerate, but a machine to sculpt. They gave him veto power over damper geometry revisions. They redesigned the floor panels to suit his feedback about lateral oscillation unpredictability. Even the cooling flow structures were adjusted. He wanted more consistency under brake load. That meant a complete overhaul of the ducting, a rebalancing of the thermal profiles on the rear bulkhead. Engineers resisted at first. Then they saw the data. Then they saw the lap times. Now, no one argues. This isn't just a car with Hamilton's fingerprints on it. This is a car made in the image of his driving philosophy. Fluid, responsive, obedient to talent, not temperamental under pressure. Not twitchy. Not fragile. Built for courage. Designed for domination. But it's not public yet. The world hasn't seen it. It hasn't turned a wheel outside the factory loading bay. No cameras. No leaks. The only people who know how it behaves are the ones inside the simulator lab and the tight-lipped CFD department buried in the sub-basement of the main complex. Even Sainz has only driven the updated package once in sim, and his feedback, while complimentary, wasn't the point. This isn't built for two. This is a weapon. Custom forged. Personal. Precise. And when it hits the track at Emola, everything changes. Because if it works, if the simulations are accurate and the car behaves even close to how it did in the final model iterations, then the rest of the field isn't just racing against Ferrari. They're racing against a man who's been handed the exact tool he asked for. They're racing against Hamilton, with nothing holding him back. And if you've followed Formula One long enough, you know what that means. Would you like the next part to show how Red Bull and Mercedes react internally as Ferrari prepares to unleash this new weapon? Fred Vasseur stands on a cliff's edge, whether he admits it publicly or not. The Ferrari team principal, a man known for calculated pragmatism and a disarming French charm that can both soothe and obscure, has never faced a moment quite like this. Behind closed doors in Maranello, he has used sharper language than anyone expected. The usual calm has thinned. He has told his engineers, his strategists, his aero department, even his most senior technical directors in blunt, unambiguous terms, this update must change everything, or we change direction entirely. Not improve. Not take a step forward. Transform. That's how critical this race weekend is. Not only for Ferrari's trajectory this season, but for its identity, its narrative, and its most high-profile acquisition in over a decade. Because Lewis Hamilton is not a driver you manage quietly. You don't sign him to blend into the tapestry. You sign him to rewrite the painting. He arrives like thunder, reshaping the weather of the paddock. He doesn't bring balance. He brings attention, expectation, weight. And now, Ferrari feels all of it. Every single fiber of the Scuderia is vibrating with pressure, not just to perform, but to justify. To validate the choice. Because if this upgrade fails, if this newly designed floor and modified suspension geometry doesn't deliver immediate performance gains, then the murmurs that have echoed quietly around the sport since Hamilton signed the contract will rise into something much louder. Something venomous. Something dangerous. The threat isn't just external. It's existential. McLaren is coming alive, methodically, rapidly, brilliantly. With Lando Norris now not just a fan favorite but a proven race winner, their development curve is suddenly terrifying. Every week, they bring tweaks. Every week, they extract more. Every weekend, the orange threat looms larger. Red Bull, even with internal political earthquakes shaking its foundations, remains ruthlessly efficient. Max Verstappen remains Max Verstappen, unshakable, unrelenting, unyielding. Mercedes, long thought to be spiraling in its own darkness, is starting to look cohesive again. Their car is no longer a stubborn mule. It's becoming responsive, competitive, sharp. Ferrari, meanwhile, stands at a crossroads. Their car, beautiful in appearance, continues to struggle with inconsistency. Its low-speed traction betrays it. Its tire degradation haunts it. In wind tunnel simulations, everything looked promising. On track, reality has often been crueler. And now the paddock wants answers. Because this isn't just a team that needs to win, it's a team that cannot afford to lose Lewis Hamilton. Not metaphorically. Not emotionally. Literally. The emotional bandwidth of a driver like Hamilton is vast, but not infinite. He has endured disappointment before. He's carried teams on his back. He's swallowed PR disasters and covered up mechanical failures with masterful drives. But everyone has a threshold. And if the car continues to betray him, if it still refuses to rotate the way he needs it to, if it continues to understeer through corner exits and lose crucial tenths in the high-speed sections, then something inside him may start to fracture. And when Hamilton fractures, the impact echoes far beyond the cockpit. He becomes distant in briefings, less engaged in simulation feedback, less enthusiastic on media day. He doesn't sabotage, he disengages. Quietly, coldly. And when that happens, the narrative becomes impossible to manage. The paddock will ask the questions no team wants to hear. Did Ferrari bet the future of their legacy on a star whose best years are behind him? Or worse, did they lure him here with the promise of something they can't provide, a car capable of greatness? How many more times will he be forced to walk into the post-qualifying pen, exhausted from extracting every possible millisecond, only to explain why he's P7 again? How many times will he have to protect the team in front of cameras while knowing privately it's not him who's failing, but the machine? That's why Emola is not just another on the calendar. It is a proving ground, a battleground, a confessional. It's the oldest European circuit still on the calendar, but this weekend, it feels reborn. Emola becomes the crucible. It may only be 4.9 kilometers per lap, but for Ferrari, it's a blade balanced precariously between two futures, one where belief is reignited, and another where doubt becomes irreversible. The upgrade package is not cosmetic. It's structural. A revised floor designed to optimize the underfloor vortex generation. A reworked rear suspension linkage aimed at improving traction out of slow corners. Tweaked side pod airflow to better manage tire temperatures across longer stints. The simulator numbers showed improvement. The CFD analysis showed reduced porpoising and improved stability on throttle. But numbers are theory. Emola is reality. And reality does not lie. If it works, if it really works, Hamilton gets something he hasn't had in years: trust. Not just in the people around him, but in the machine beneath him. He can stop dancing around brake bias to compensate for turn-in hesitation. He can push into corners with confidence instead of caution. He can stop second-guessing rear-end grip. He can flow through Variante Alta and Piratella with commitment. He can race, not just manage. And when Hamilton races freely, when he's unburdened by compensating for technical flaws, he becomes something beyond mortal. We've seen it. We know it. The version of Hamilton that finds flow is a force of nature. He erases gaps. He manufactures overtakes. He turns inevitability into theater. He becomes mythic. This is the same man who erased a season's worth of narrative in a single afternoon in Interlagos. The same driver who took inferior machinery to the brink of victory, time and again. The same champion who rose from defeats not with excuses, but with vengeance. That is the version Ferrari believes they signed. But that version needs the right weapon. If the updates fail, if this is just another mirage, then the conversation shifts forever. The dream becomes a question mark. The honeymoon ends. And the fear sets in. Because no amount of marketing can fix a broken trust. No Instagram post or celebratory video can replace belief. No Forza Ferrari tweet can distract from disappointment on the timing screens. Hamilton won't say it. He won't need to. It will show in his driving. In his tone. In the space between the lines of his interviews. This weekend, Ferrari either rewrites the script or watches the story slip away. The margin is thinner than ever. And the eyes of the world are not just watching. They are waiting. Would you like the follow-up scene to dive into qualifying at Emola, including live team radio between Hamilton and his engineer, or an internal meeting between Hamilton, Vasseur, and the technical staff? And if it doesn't happen, if the pieces don't click, if the gains remain theoretical, if the results continue to fall short of the rhetoric, then the dream may not just be slipping away. It might already be dying, quietly, painfully, in front of millions. There's something raw about this moment. Not the kind of drama scripted into documentaries or polished into social media clips, but something deeper, existential, fragile. The kind of tension that doesn't need to be explained, because it vibrates in the silence between questions and press conferences, in the long pauses before answers, in the sharp glances exchanged between engineers over data screens. You can feel it through the broadcast, through the hum of the pit lane feed, through the camera that lingers a second too long on Hamilton's face as he exits the garage. The paddock senses it. So do the fans. Everyone's watching the body language, listening for tone shifts, tracking radio transcripts like sacred texts. The belief that once wrapped around Hamilton like armor, unshakable, legendary, forged across 7 titles, is being tested like never before. Not just by lap times. Not just by tire degradation. But by faith. Faith in a dream that may be running out of oxygen. This isn't the usual slow build of a top driver transitioning to a new team. This is something else. This is urgency masked as calm. This is a man who didn't come to Maranello for a 5-year plan or a slow climb up the standings. He came to make history, immediately, emphatically, without caveats. Hamilton came not to construct something from scratch, but to finish something, to close the circle. To take the most iconic car in Formula One history and add the final jewel to his crown. And yet, here he stands. Not atop the podium. Not in the media center fielding questions about victory. But in the middle of a project whose foundation is still shifting beneath his feet. Ferrari has spoken the right words. They've shown the right graphics. They've promised upgrades, downforce solutions, power unit tweaks, floor revisions, lighter bodywork, software optimizations. They've pointed to wind tunnel data, CFD correlation, energy recovery curves. But Formula One doesn't care about promises. It cares about tenths. It cares about execution. And Ferrari, for all its beauty and mythology, has a habit of cracking when it matters most. The engineers work tirelessly. The strategists stay late. The mechanics bleed for every tenth of a second. But Hamilton knows better than anyone that this sport isn't kind to effort. It only rewards perfection. And that is the question haunting every sleepless night in Maranello. Can they be perfect for him? Because this isn't about fixing a car anymore. It's about time. And time, in Formula One, is the most ruthless opponent of all. Every Grand Prix lost is not just points dropped, it's history shifting. It's legacies rewritten in real time. It's the narrowing of a window that may never open again. Hamilton may smile for the cameras, may nod politely, may deflect with grace. But those closest to him have started to see the cracks in the veneer. The longer silences. The shorter debriefs. The way his eyes dart toward the data screens with an edge of doubt. He hasn't said it outright, but the clock is ticking, and he can hear every second. He knows what people are waiting for. Not just a win. Not just a breakthrough weekend. They want proof that this move wasn't a mistake, that this wasn't a beautiful idea spoiled by ugly execution, that the image of Hamilton in red will one day stand not as a footnote, but as a defining monument in his career, that this wasn't just an echo of Schumacher, but a new symphony of its own. But the longer it takes, the more the questions multiply. Has the sport evolved past Ferrari's ability to keep up? Can their factory in Maranello truly compete with the technological fortresses in Brackley or Milton Keynes? Are their decision-makers bold enough to risk everything? Or will they once again lean into tradition over innovation, optics over optimization? For Hamilton, The risk was always greater than the reward. He didn't need to leave Mercedes. He didn't need to take this leap. His legacy was already secure. But greatness doesn't crave comfort, it craves meaning. He chose Ferrari because he wanted to feel the weight of history again, to carry the ghost of greatness on his shoulders and drag it back into the light. He wanted to hear the Italian anthem playing for him, under the Scarlet Banner, standing on the top step with a team that hadn't touched the summit in over a decade and a half. But dreams, even the beautiful ones, have expiration dates. And now, as we move toward Emola, the pressure builds, not quietly, but violently. The Tifosi will pack the stands, waving flags with trembling hope, eyes locked on their new hero. The media will swarm, microphones loaded, lenses pointed, waiting for the headline moment. Every lap, every sector, every pit stop will be a referendum, not just on Hamilton's performance, but on Ferrari's soul. Because this isn't just about aerodynamics or setups or engine modes. This is about whether belief, when pushed to its limits, can survive disappointment. Whether legacy can carry a team that's forgotten how to win. Whether a dream, born in fire and passion, can still survive in a sport that only honors execution. And if it does, then we'll witness one of the greatest turnarounds in the modern era. A story so rich in narrative, so steeped in legacy and redemption, it'll etch itself into the DNA of the sport forever. But if it doesn't, then what's left is silence. A silence louder than failure. A silence that comes when belief fades, when the cameras shut off, when the flags are folded, and when the promise that once felt eternal is finally broken. No matter the outcome, one truth remains unshakable. This moment, this precise, fragile, high-voltage crossroads, may determine not just the course of a season, but the closing arc of a legend story, and the final verdict on whether Ferrari, the most romantic team in racing history, still knows how to turn myth into reality. Emola isn't just a race. It's a reckoning. Would you like the story to continue with the outcome of Emola?